This meeting is being live streamed.
Yo, maybe famous. Yo, subscribe. Yeah. Please like, comment, subscribe.
These chairs are really fun.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. This one? Okay. Yep.
So, what sort of madness?
Work hard, play hard. Work hard, play hard. You'll be fine. Oh my gosh. So picky, so picky. High standards, high standards.
We called you.
When it's 2:10, we'll start. What is time? Okay. 2:10, we'll start. It's just ice.
Is he ice?
No. He doesn't have some.
What model's that?
No idea what that is. Maybe it is an excellent present.
Is the policy action card?
Oh, it's 2:10. 我们可以开始吗？
看主持吧，那个孙浩在说，应该是孙浩主持。哎，孙浩能听见吗？我现在开始吗？
现在开始吧。主持人不是 Alan 吗？是，当时他们定了 Alan 和 Jess。
都得有吧。
Yeah.
好的。
Okay, is that better? Yes, sorry. Where's Ellen? Oh, there she is.
Hey everyone. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay, give me like a thumbs up.
是开始了吗？没有声音。Zoom 里没有声音，听不到声音，然后也看不到人。你们的视频是对着会场的，看不到演讲的人。
Is this better now? Is this better? 现在好吗？
现在可以，对，哎，这回人对了 ，OK。
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Good respond. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So welcome to the meeting. So we have 5 speakers here today. I'm Ellen.
Oh, I'm Jack.
I'm Jacqueline. And then so today, some of us will be talking a little bit Okay, yeah. Okay, once I take off my, can you guys hear me a little bit better now?
还是没有声音，听不到。
在用手机吗？用手机的。
能听到旁边的人的声音，听不到主讲人的声音。
Hello?
Okay, now. Okay, try to talk again.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear us better?
A bit closer to you guys.
主持人说话，主持人说话。
Okay. All right. Well, the microphone is that. Yeah, the microphone is that now.
So,
Let's project.
So a bit of a disclaimer before we begin. We're 5 very different people. We have 5 very different experiences throughout this whole process. So you're going to get 5 different processes, and that means we might contradict each other. At sometimes we might say different things because different opinions. We're not a final authority. We're not admissions officers, obviously. We're just students, and we did these things, and we happen to get into these schools. So therefore, we're not saying you have to do these things or do exactly what we did in order to get into these schools. These are just some things that you can consider as you do your college applications. So yeah, with that, I'm going to be talking about 4 main topics, which is academics very briefly, sort of a main message that I hope you can take into consideration, and then my activities, and then my essays. So starting off with academics, I would say your academics are kind of your foundation. If you don't have good academics, then you're even if you have outstanding activities and essays, they might not even get looked at because you get filtered out. But with that, you don't need to be perfect. Let me say that again. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need a 4.0 GPA. You do not need a 1600 SAT to do very well in college admissions. But in terms of GPA, it's better to do difficult classes and maybe not do perfectly in them than to take super easy classes and get all A's. Because academic rigor is one thing that colleges really look for. It's how difficult were your classes. And if you can do well in those classes, then that's even better. But yeah, and then SAT, people ask when should I start studying for it or really worrying about it? I would say don't worry about it until junior year or maybe the summer before your junior year. Then you can start studying for it. But if you're in I don't know, 5th grade, please don't worry about it. Don't worry about your SAT until somewhere in high school. And it's also becoming less important. It's not required anymore. It's highly recommended, but less and less schools are looking at your SAT. So if you're in 5th grade, by the time you get to college applications, you might not even need to take it anymore. They might not even consider it. So for younger kids, don't worry about it. Yeah. And then this is kind of going on to sort of the principle that I kept in mind while I was doing my applications. I think this is really important and something to sort of step back and look at every once in a while, which is I believe that you should not construct your life around college applications. And then you can sort of already see that with the SAT, like don't start studying it for it when you're like super little. And then I'll go into more detail of what I mean with my activities. So one question we got was, how important are activities? I say they are very important. Most colleges will put activities like right after your academic foundation. And then here is where I would sort of apply my guiding principle of not creating your life entirely around college applications in deciding like what activities you decide to do. So I would say do what you enjoy and what makes you happy. A lot of times people will say like, oh, maybe I should do this activity because it's rare and I want to like stand out amongst all the other like more common activities, even if they don't like it. And I say like, I would reconsider that, do what makes you happiest. Like my main activity is piano. And that's like one of the most common activities out there. But I kept doing piano because I really loved it. It made me happy. And I did piano. It was fulfilling, and I did it because it was fulfilling, not because I wanted to say like, oh, I'll put this on my college apps, it'll look cool. No, I did it because I truly love piano. And then second of all, you want to have some way to prove that you spent time and did well in your activities. So like, even if you become like really good at something, like your college admissions officers, they can't read your mind. So they don't know, like you spent all this time and you got good at this activity. You have to have some way of showing that you did this. For example, I did a lot of piano competitions because I enjoyed that aspect of performing. And then I listed like my awards in the awards section of the application. But you could also do other things like playing frequently at concerts. Again, arts specific, lots of schools have like an arts portfolio for things like visual art, theater, dance, etc. You can put like videos of your dance, theater, music, or like samples of your visual art, or like photography and all that. And then that gets looked at by professional people in that department. It's not just like some admissions officers, so they can really tell if you're like good at that activity, and it can really help your activity. It almost never hurts you. It can only help you or be like neutral. And then you can also, or actually the third thing when it comes to activities is you should use it to paint it in the best light for your application and show off your best personal qualities. This is where if you want to do a little bit of like trying to impress colleges and like show them what they want to see, this is where you do that little bit of it in this final step after you've done like the activity that you enjoy and proving that you did the activity. And then if you're looking for like what qualities specific schools are looking for, you could go onto their website, and then they'll often have like a mission statement that says what they want to achieve in the world. Like for Stanford, it was like, we want optimistic people looking to like change the world for the better. So you could touch up a little bit on that aspect of like optimism and changing the world for the better, for example, in your essays. But I would caution against overdoing it and sort of like sucking up to the colleges in the worst terms, because that just seems really sort of fake and lame and like someone I would not want to interact with. So like briefly mention it, highlight your best qualities, but don't overdo it and sound like you're like trying to do it. And then I guess this segment on activities, going back to like the main point that I hope everyone can sort of consider, is just living your life, doing the activities that you want to do because you want to do them and because they make you happy, not because you want to use them to get into college. And then sort of, again, for younger students and parents, like, please don't worry about college applications so much right now. Like, I would only start to really think about it in maybe high school. Otherwise, just like live your life, like go outside and play, do fun stuff. don't stress, like you'll be okay. And then essays, my next topic. So like after your admissions or your applications, it's sitting on the admissions officer's desk. You have all your stats and you have your activities. Even if those stats are super impressive, you're still kind of just a pile of stats. Like lots of people have very impressive stats, and activities, like they can be very common, like mine. So that's why essays, especially the more creative ones, they can really serve to humanize you. They make you likable as a person. They show off your personality. They can make your admissions officer kind of root for you and cheer for you in getting into the school. So that's why I think essays, they should show off your personality. The best parts, you should bring those to the front. And you should also show a little bit of vulnerability and risk-taking. By vulnerability, I mean, you could tell a story about when you failed, and that's not always easy to talk about. But when you talk about it, and more importantly, show how you learned from that failure and grew out of it, it really shows like that growth that sort of, I guess, brings out your personal qualities even more. And also in risk-taking, by this, I don't mean like don't talk about anything illegal. Don't talk about, don't really highlight any of your super negative qualities, because like we're all people, we have negative qualities, but don't highlight them here. By risk, I mean small risks. I think it would be easier to show you with an example of my Stanford 50-word essay. This was the first essay on my application. It was like the first thing they were going to read that really showed off my personality. And I think it was kind of a risk because it went against the whole idea of how people really try to like do everything they can to just stand out and do whatever it takes to get into college. And I think that's like not really what I wanted to do. So the essay prompt was like a significant challenge that society faces today. And I said it was conformist nonconformity. Much of our identities are increasingly based on how we believe others will perceive us. Social pressures to stand out often result in conformity disguised as its polar opposite, and has the same effect of limiting the pursuit of true individuality. So that was the first thing that I put on my essay part of my application, and it kind of like went against how a lot of people treat these applications. So I would say it's kind of a risk. So take that kind of risk. Don't say like, oh, I did this like illegal thing. Like that's not the kind of risk I mean. And then also, your essays can show off your best personal qualities and like what you really value, and also kind of connect to those mission statement values that colleges will often have on their website. So for another essay prompt, another short one that Stanford had, it was about like which historical moment that you would have liked to witness. And then I said, 1942 Leningrad, the city's last remaining orchestra, a tattered, dwindling ensemble, rehearses Shostakovich's 7th Symphony. They pause, weak from cold and starvation, then carry on. For their music is a dim light that brings hope amidst war, music that shields against the sleet and sings of a better tomorrow. So in that essay, I pointed out one of my interests, which is music history. 2, I showed my personal values of how like music can really change people. And then 3, kind of connected to the second one, I touched on the optimism that Stanford mentioned in thinking of like a better tomorrow, and then also changing the world for the better, which is using music to impact people and bring hope. So you can really use your essays to your advantage, especially like the creative prompts. And then for the reasons of vulnerability and risk, I didn't have an essay tutor. because I didn't want someone like breathing down my neck and like reading my very personal stories and sort of limiting the amount of risk I could take. Instead, I just sort of Googled like how to write the why this major essay or why this college essay. And then there's lots of like very helpful articles online you can read about like what direction you can start going in, like what to avoid. They have some very useful examples. I would caution against like following all of the examples because, to be honest, some of those are pretty like I would not write like that. Like some of them I say are pretty bad. So don't like put all your trust into those examples. Use your own judgment and think what you would do, sort of like trust your gut instinct. And then I guess last points that I want to leave you with and hope that you can keep in mind is that in the end, you are not in complete control of what college you do or do not get into. Because once you submit your application, there's lots more applicants than there are spots. And if an admissions officer has 2 applicants of exactly equal qualification, if they could both get in, they're both like that good, but they only have 1 spot. One of you is going to get in, one of you is not. It's not in your control at that point. So that's why I would say that you should not judge yourself by what college you get into or don't get into, because you are worth more than your college acceptances. Thank you.
Ask us questions.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly just what are they curious about?
Okay.
Personal experiences.
Do you guys have any questions that you would like to ask us? Like, yeah, questions for all.
The UW removal requirements. All right, sure. So yeah, UW does, and a lot of schools actually do remove the requirement for ACT or SAT, but it does not mean that it's like something you should. It does not mean it's something that you should like disregard. You should definitely still take the SAT or ACT. Just don't make it your focus. Like, don't spend too much time on it. Maybe spend like a month or so, I'd say, on the SAT or ACT. Like, study it and then get over with as well. Because UC system also does not even look at the SAT or ACT requirements. Caltech this year did not look at them. But definitely they do and could give you an edge if you have a good score on them. So yeah, I think UW still looks at SAT or ACT.
Yeah, it's like if you do bad, a lot of schools is test optional now, so you don't even have to submit it. But if you do good, like you can submit it, and like the only thing it will do is benefit your application.
Exactly.
So there's no harm in taking it. Also, one thing that I learned, or like I was told, is so for high school, 11th grade is always your most like rigorous year in terms of academics. And so someone told me you should try taking it in 10th grade, because 10th grade compared to 11th grade, it's a really big gap for like every school. It's not just ours. And so if you have the time, you can study like 1 or 2 months in 10th grade and then take it in 10th grade. And that also gives you time to retake it, because there's super scores in SAT and ACT, which can give you like a really big jump in scores. So if you take it in 10th grade, then you can have the option to take it again in the 11th grade. What I don't recommend actually is putting it off until the summer of 11th grade between 12th grade, because by that time you want to start thinking about your essays and not your SAT. And then even if you do bad, you won't have the option to retake it again. So I would recommend getting a spot early. And then if you want, then you have the option of getting a spot later. Also sign up early. Like when you sign up for the test, sign up early, because if you don't sign up early, you're going to be driving like 6 hours. Like I know someone who had to fly to Arizona to go take the test. And that's obviously what you don't want to do. So sign up like 6, even like 8 months in advance. Like once you know that you want to take it for SAT and ACT, the spots are super competitive. So make sure you sign up early.
It should be better this year though, because COVID.
Sure, but that's still bad.
Yeah, it would be.
Do you guys have anything?
I can talk about personally. I took mine right after spring break of junior year. do not take the ninth grade.
Ninth grade is
it's not necessary.
Ninth grade is like still middle school, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
I took them like right before the summer of, or no, like a couple months before the summer, before 12th grade. I spent about like 10 days on the ACT. What about you guys? Switch.
Personally, I had to take more time to study for like my SAT, like the reading sections, because that was more of my weakness. But I guess like, if you truly like have like the book and study and do practice tests and stuff, you'll eventually like get there. And I don't know, it's like, I guess what I'm trying to get across is that like, if you just try and like do the SAT, even if you like don't like it, because I know a lot of people don't like standardized testing, but if you just like take the time to do it, it'll work out in the end. And if you get a good score, like Jack just said, it'll ultimately just benefit you on your college application and give you a great foundation for all of your other activities and essays that you will have to do.
For me personally, I took it once in 8th grade summer. And like the main reason I did that was to like just get a feel of the test. And it wouldn't be like, it didn't stay on my record because it was before high school. So like if you want to try it, I think it's like you could just try it for fun, I guess. So I got a decent score, so that really helped me. That just like helped me understand how much time I'd have to put aside in high school to study for the SAT. So since I scored, I would say decently, I wouldn't have to put as much emphasis on it in high school. But I would say I agree with the statement about taking it in sophomore year or junior year at like the latest, because you get really busy in junior year because of your classes and activities. So if you can get it done in sophomore year, that would help like lessen the stress in general.
Yeah. And I would also say that in freshman year in 9th grade, you're kind of still discovering like what your passions are. Like I know personally me, when I was a freshman, I didn't know that I was going to do computer science in the future. So I kind of just took that time to explore and not really worry about like standardized testing.
And also I'd like to mention like between the SAT and ACT, there used to be like a difference on like what colleges prefer, but right now there's really no difference. So I would suggest taking both of them just like as practice and seeing which one like is better and like easier for you, and then just focusing all of your study on that one test instead of taking both of them. And there's also a lot of resources online. For me, I use like Khan Academy for SAT, which was really helpful. And then there's also like a Reddit link with all of the past SAT, ACT, PSAT tests that you can use to study. So it's quite accessible online to study. So you don't really need to find like a tutor or anything. If you just go online and use those resources, you would be able to get like a pretty good score from just using those study materials.
For me, for studying for the ACT, basically I just did like, I had to first learn how to do each section. So you do like some sort of book work, read some sort of article about like how to do each section, you practice that section. And once you know each section and how to do them, then you just need to practice out your skills. And you do that by just doing tests. So over spring break, I did about like tests per day, except I excluded the math section. Yeah, but I just did a test per day. And eventually I was able to get a really good score on that.
Any more questions for us right now?
We talk about our own personal experience admission process.
Yeah.
We did.
你们是按说女生每个人先单独讲。
Yeah, we first we need to introduce ourselves. So we
should, yes.
Well, Ellen, you should start.
你这每个人就是分别讲完之后，最后 Q&A 的时候一起 Q 的。
Belated introduction. I'm Ellen. I'm going to Stanford. I applied restrictive early action. And my first choice major on my application was computer science. The second one was music. But for Stanford, it's pretty flexible with like what major you actually go into. I think you don't have to decide until like somewhere in your sophomore year. So even though I put computer science, I might not actually go into it. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jack. I am a senior at Skyline. I'm going to Emory in Atlanta. I applied ED, so early decision, and I applied as an econ major, but similar to Ellen, I'm not really like, I personally don't really know what I want to do with my life, and private schools are a lot more flexible in terms of switching majors. And so that's part of the reason why I applied to Emory. And yeah, I don't think we have to decide a major till like sophomore, junior year either, so.
For me, I'm a little bit different because I've been doing like CS for my entire life. And so like even like, oh, hi, my name is Victor Cheng. I go to Skyline High School and I'm going to go to the University of Washington for computer science next year. And so I've been doing comp sci and coding stuff ever since like even third grade. And through that process, I like joined robotics early on in my life. And I've been doing like just hardcore focus on it for most of my time. And so I did go into college knowing exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life pretty much. And so then it's a little bit different because I do like apply for only CS for every single college and looked at CS programs for everything. And so I applied for about 23 schools. I got into like, I should forgot how many.
It's okay.
but yeah, that's my sort of process on that. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline. I'm also a senior at Skyline, and we're actually all IB diploma candidates.
So we all took 0 AP classes.
Okay, we'll talk about AP a little bit later. But I'll be attending Cornell University in the fall to study computer science. And Cornell actually admits by college. And what that means is that within each university, you actually have, there's like different schools or colleges, like there's a school of music. At Cornell, there's a college of engineering, and that's the one I applied to and got accepted into. And I applied as a CS major, but I basically can choose any major within engineering, basically like within the first 2 years of my education.
Hi, my name is Lenci, and I'm also a senior at Skyline, and I got accepted as a EECS major at UC Berkeley, which is electrical engineering and computer science. So within Berkeley, it's also like you get accepted by major or like by school. So there's like another school called the LNS school, which is more flexible in terms of majors. But within the engineering school, I got accepted directly to EECS. So I will probably be staying within that major. But I think that since I got accepted within the school, you can choose like different majors outside if you want to switch, but it's more of a difficult process, I would say, because it's a public university.
AP classes?
AP classes.
Who wants to talk about AP? You can talk about AP? Yes,
yeah, so, okay, so all three of us actually took like AP exams over at a different high school in our area. Because Skyline is an IB schools. That means we don't offer any APs, even though most high schools in America do. But basically what we had to do was like, just like sign up through College Board and stuff. And through that, we had to like self-study or like use the material that we learned at Skyline and go take these exams. And I wouldn't like, I mean, we don't really know how many AP classes to take because we didn't go through that process. But I would say that like, if you feel comfortable enough in like something that you're learning, especially in like junior year when you're taking IB, or most of us are taking IB. A lot of like most people at Skyline do like IB. And then you can go like take these AP exams. Like it doesn't really hurt you. And it also gives you a clear sense of like kind of like what you need to study for IB exams the following year. So we all took AP exams in our junior year. Okay. So most of us are junior year, and I personally took AP Calc AB, Comp Sci, and also physics. And the first two I did really good on. So like I can use them for college credit, but honestly, it doesn't really hurt you. You can take them if you want, but it's for Skyline, especially with IB, it's really difficult. So if you don't end up taking any AP exams, it's really okay. You just like, you can just like get college credit from IB.
I can have a few things, yeah. So for us, we took IB diploma, as you guys know, and that fills up like pretty much all 7 of your periods with IB classes. And so that happens both 11th grade and 12th grade as well. So if you think about like a similar experience with AP classes, definitely do recommend filling out like doing the AP classes that you want to do and take as many as you can if that's an option for you. Because definitely colleges do want to see you pushing yourself and taking as hard classes as possible. And we also recommend like going above and beyond to making sure that you do take those risks to take these hard classes, even if you might not do very well at them. But if you do have IB diploma as an option, it isn't too necessary to take AP exams, but just note that for college credits, AP does favor you. And also one more thing is that College Board did recently remove the SAT, like the SAT subject tests, and they encourage people to take AP exams instead of SAT subject tests to replace them. So definitely it could be a good opportunity for you to show how good you are to take AP exams in 11th grade year. So personally, I took BC Calc, Comp Sci as well, and AP Physics C, Mechanics, and AP Physics C, E&M. And once you
like personally for me, I had like similar experience. I chose to take AP, these AP tests. I only took one, just Calc AB, which is like easier than the BC version. And I did this mainly for college credit because IB doesn't give you much and you have to score like really high on the IB math test to get any credit from colleges. So I just took that one for college credit. And I don't think it's really necessary because I don't think it's a huge like impact on college applications if you are taking IB courses. It's just something extra that would benefit you later on when you get accepted into college.
And something else that we would also like to add is that AP is like much easier than IB.
Wow.
Like, and also like in terms of like colleges favoring AP, it's actually like kind of clear. Like for IB, most colleges only take your higher level exams, which are typically math, your sciences, and then English. Yeah. And you would also have to score like really high on them. And IB grades on a 7-point scale, and you have to get, I think, usually a 5, 6, or 7. Usually 6 or 7 for like private universities and stuff. So I mean, it's a good idea to take AP classes, but it's also a good idea, I think, if you don't completely understand something, you can retake it in college if you want. Like I'll probably have to retake like physics in college because high school physics was a little bit confusing for me. So I would like to relearn those concepts even better. But I mean, it's like up to you.
Oh, good SAT score.
I'd say 50, 40. That's good enough for college.
我建议你们这样吧，现在顺便把你们的 speaker 的内容讲完之后再做那个 Q&A， 不然你们没有机会讲。
我们差不多。
没有，但你们
Yeah， 我们没有。
这底下都是 Q&A 了。我每个问一下，因为如果比如说你不想讲的话，确认一下，其他人也不需要讲了，我们就 Q&A。
Do you have anything else?
有你们单独要讲的吗？因为原来的安排是每个 speaker 讲一下他们自己的。Yeah， 就是你们每个人的 speak 都完了之后再做 Q&A， 同意了，这样时间好控制一下。
Okay, right. So sort of extracurriculars.
所以谁开始就坐在这个电脑前面，其他人先坐在后面。
Okay, this will be kind of an awkward transition, but I'll talk about like my personal experiences now. Once again, I'll be going to Cornell in the fall, and just a little bit about academic. Like we've all mentioned, we're on IB diploma, and it has it was like really difficult. I won't like lie on that. It was really difficult, but I think it was also like a really good preparation for college because we've heard from like all of the Skyline alums that like once you go into college after doing IB diploma, it's like much easier, or like you feel more prepared than those around you. So it's a good idea to take it. And like, you don't have to get a perfect GPA and stuff, because like, ultimately it's only just like a number, and a number can't really define you. So just work as hard as you can, but don't tire yourself out. Like, don't go into like, I don't know, deep depression mode, because that is not worth it. Just like, do the best that you can, but don't burn yourself out. So typically for private universities, they take a holistic approach to your application, as most colleges are doing, but I feel like it's more emphasized with private universities. So I will be going through a little bit of like my activities and experiences that might have helped me get into like Cornell. So first, I'd like to talk about my CS experience, go a little bit into like leadership, talk about like my music experiences, then also the volunteer activity that I've done throughout high school. So first, in computer science specific activities, I was also involved in robotics. I started in middle school, and I also continued into high school with the Skyline Robotics Club. And I started as a freshman as an active build member. I was learning a lot about the robot that year, and we also got to go to Worlds that year, which was really fun. And there was actually an innovation fair there. And I think that was kind of where I started to realize that I wanted to do CS. Like my inspiration kind of struck freshman year. It might be different for all of us. And moving on from that, in the later years, I was appointed to board member. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And additionally, I've been trying to teach myself coding concepts, programming throughout the years. And I've also coded several like programs and apps. And I think that helped me gain my confidence in what I wanted to do. And two more like activities that I did last year during the summer included the University of Washington Engineering Academy, where I was selected to participate out of the people that applied from Washington State. And this allowed me to kind of ingrain down my mathematical abilities, but also apply them to engineering concepts, such as like in electrical engineering, you're dealing with circuits, and also in computer engineering, you're dealing a lot with machine learning and like network security and stuff. And that was like, this latter part of it was kind of like what I wanted to go into. So it was really interesting for me to see like how everything connected together. Now, and then I also had one last CS related experience, which was an internship from the Institute of Systems Biology. And this was more of like data science related. And we basically just like learned how to like analyze data sets and filter them through. And I think the CS experience, like if you know what you're going to do and you have a passion for it, then I would say go ahead and find activities that would help benefit you. And in my case, I think it did. And so I feel like that might have helped me get into Cornell, the College of Engineering. Then next, we have leadership. So like I mentioned before, I was part of the Skyline Robotics Club. And in my freshman year, I was just a build member. But in my sophomore year, I was appointed to be a board member. And I was given a business lead role, but I was also given like build lead responsibilities to help the new members of the club learn more about like engineering and how we built the robot. But specifically within business, I helped start several elementary FLL teams, which are first Lego League robotics teams for the younger children. And I basically just like spoke to the elementary school like, principal, school advisor, and PTSA to make this happen. And through this, I was given the opportunity to like meet a lot of kids and kind of feel their passion for STEM, because I could feel that, like, you know, they were really interested. And I think that also helped me kind of realize that there's like this whole like large like realm of people who want to study, who want to go into technology but might not know where to start. And I think this was a great place for them to start. And lastly, I want to talk about the Scratch coding course that I founded through an organization called Cloud Classroom. And through that, I was able to connect with students worldwide, especially from like the US, China, and Australia. And through this, I like taught these children programming concepts, basics about like user interfaces. And yeah, and basically it's the same as my mentoring experience. I help like feel their inspiration for this and like motivated them to continue with their programming experiences and yeah, and see where they would end up. Next, I actually want to talk about music similar to Ellen. I played the violin for I think almost 9 years now. And through this process, I've joined many orchestras, competed in competitions, won many awards, things like that. And in high school, I auditioned for the Issaquah School District's Evergreen Philharmonic. And I was accepted into that my freshman year. And through that, we have something called a concerto competition. I've won that once last year, and also received an award at like the East Shore Festival Solon Ensemble in my freshman year. And I think all of these experiences like in music really collected up, and I felt like I was confident enough in my skill to also submit a music portfolio for Cornell. And a little bit on like this portfolio part, not all schools like have this option. Like I was looking at other schools like I think Northwestern and Rice University, they didn't have these options, but Cornell did. And I'm sure there are many universities out there that accept music portfolios. But just a tip, like if you're looking to like show colleges a little bit more about your skill through this portfolio format, I would like go like research really deeply about what each college really wants, because not every college will accept like the same material in terms of what to record. And this all, I think this also like shows your perseverance, especially if you've been playing for a long time. Colleges will get to see that, oh, you started young, but you might have faced some challenges along the way, but you kept on going, and now you're submitting us this video. And that kind of just like shows part of your character as well. And lastly, my volunteer experiences range from like social justice organizations to educational organizations. And I think through these, initially when I was like looking for volunteer experiences to do, they were kind of like mainly for something we do in IB diploma, which is called CAS, the service aspect of it. But I quickly found that I really enjoyed what I did. So sometimes you can go into an activity not knowing what you want to do. But ultimately, like if you follow through with it and you find that it's truly for you, then it'll really like help you and also like assist you in your application. So I won't go into my volunteer activities that much, but just like some general pieces of advice, I would just say to like start early, because I know for me, I completely underestimated the time it took to do like everything in the college application process, such as researching colleges, brainstorming ideas, actually writing the essays, and then also like filling out the actual like common application and stuff, because that is a little bit confusing. So I would just say like start early. I would say the earliest you should start the actual process would be second semester of junior year, because that's like, I feel like that's when you have the best sense of like what you want to do. And from there you can kind of like start the process, start researching colleges. And then when it hits the summer after junior year, you can start working on your personal statement. And the personal statement is like after junior year until maybe around August, I think. Then at that point you can slowly start working on your supplemental essays, which are specifically for each college, and then like basically just go from there, because there are a lot of people who like hold off on doing like this entire process, so they can be found like really close to the due date, just like cramming their essays. And usually when you do that, it doesn't really turn out good. So start early. And yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lenci, and I'm just gonna also go through like my process throughout like this college application season and like the specific things I did that I thought were helpful. So first, I just wanted to go back to like the stats portion again, like your GPA. I think it's definitely important to take lots of challenging courses, but make sure you can handle that course load so that your life doesn't revolve just around academics, because there's also a lot of other aspects such as your activities as well. For the SAT, again, like it's only like a really small portion of your application. I feel like if you have a good enough GPA and SAT score, you'll have a higher chance of being considered for the college, but mainly what gets you in are like the rest of your application, like your essays and your activities. For me, choosing a major, I always knew I was like interested in STEM because I joined robotics back in middle school. So from there, I decided that I wanted to pursue like a STEM major. I wasn't really entirely sure what specific major I wanted to do until much later on in the process. And one of my suggestions is like in 9th grade, especially, since you have a lot more time, join like many clubs, organizations of like various different activities just to explore your interests. And then afterwards, when you know which ones you like or dislike, you can cut off more in like 10th, 11th grade and just focus on the ones you're the most interested in. So for classes, I did diploma classes, and for my HL classes, I did HL computer science, physics, English, and math. And for me, I chose physics, and I think I basically since I wanted to do STEM, I had to do a math HL, and then English was required. And I chose physics and computer science because at that point, I felt like that was like most related to my interest personally. So whatever you find yourself passionate in, I suggest taking like the most rigorous courses for that specific interest. So for me at that time, it was computer science. And then I just wanted to go through like the timeline of things a little bit more. So I think it's good to start preparing early, like having an idea of the activities you want to do, because not only do they want to see like 10 activities, because that's what you can put on your common application, they also want to see that you've been doing these activities for like a long period of time. So you put lots of effort and time into these activities. So if you start early in like 10th grade with the ones you're the most interested in, they'll see that you put a certain amount of time into this activity. And also for preparation, I think it's good to be really organized throughout this process. And that's something that I struggled with at first. So in the summer before senior year, I think that's a really good time to get like prepared and like know the colleges, start researching, and like just start building your activity list. So during that period of time, I think I tried to build my college list the most. So I spent basically like an hour on each college just researching. And by that point, I just set my major for sure that I was going to do computer science. So I spent a lot of time researching into computer science programs at all of these schools, and I was able to build like an initial list. And then also during that summer, I suggest like start brainstorming for your like personal statement. The personal statement actually takes a lot longer than you'd expect, I feel like, even though it's not like word lengthwise, it's not the longest essay you probably have done in high school. I think it's a really different type of essay that we're used to as students because it's more personal and it's like about the challenges you faced or some really personal experience. So it's very different from the normal research essays we do in school. And since it's probably going to be one of the first essays you do, it's worth like putting a lot of time into this essay. So in the end, I went through lots of different ideas and different drafts. And I think that's also an important part when doing this essay. And also during that summer, since like some schools haven't finalized the supplemental essay prompts yet, I think building an activity list is also a good use of time. So because each year you'll have Common App ask for 10 different activities and you can choose if you want to fill up all of them. I think in the end, I filled up all of them, but it's really up to your choice. If you feel like you have 10 pretty strong activities, then I suggest filling them all up. But if you think the last few of your activities aren't really helping your application, you might want to consider not like leaving some spots blank. But during that summer, you can work on writing the descriptions for all of these activities and figuring out how much time you put in, because there's also like spots where you have to put in how many hours you've participated in the activity each week and also how many weeks you've done the activity for per year. In terms of the college counselor, I actually did find a counselor in like second semester of my junior year. And I think for counselors, it may be helpful for some individuals, but in my case, I felt like it was more detrimental to my college experience than helpful.
Oh my gosh.
I think what's most important is that you spend enough time talking to the counselor to find like someone who's a good fit with your like personality and what you want to achieve through your college application process. For me, since I like looked for a college counselor quite late in the process, it was really rushed and we didn't really have the same goals or the same goals going in, and her way of doing things was different from how I wanted to approach the college application. So I found it was a lot easier to go through the process myself. However, I do think like a college counselor would be good for like the organizational aspect because they really help keep you on track with deadlines. And also if you're really unfamiliar to the whole process, they will help you like make sure you get things done on time and like finish all the things you need to do. And another important part of the college application process that we haven't really talked about is letter of recommendations. So I suggest finding 2 teachers for letter of recommendations. Some schools only require 1, but in the end, your college list may not be finalized like the first time you like write it. So you might add a college later that requires 2. So I think finding 2 is a good balance. And like preferably 1 from like the math, science, and then 1 from humanities, or like 1 humanities and 1 related to the area of interest you're doing. So for me, I found 1 from computer science and also 1 of my humanities teachers. And I think it's important to build a good relationship with your teachers early on. And usually you would find your 11th grade teachers for this teacher recommendation. So both of my teachers were 11th grade teachers, and my connections with them were like, I made sure I was like basically a good student in the class and like know the teacher on like a more like a deeper level than my other, like interact with them more than my other teachers, I guess. So for one of my teachers, I worked with her on like an extended essay. So that helped me have more interactions with her, especially since we were on Zoom during that year. So it was difficult getting to know our teachers more. And then the other teacher was my computer science teacher. And that teacher, I felt like I was able to connect with him more. I'm not sure how to like put that, but like I knew like the teacher liked me. And also some teachers will like show you their recommendation after they wrote it. So I was able to see his recommendation for me before like he submitted. And since when I read it, it was like pretty strong. So like that was one of the ones I made sure to submit for all of my colleges. But it's also different for each teacher. My other teacher didn't show me her recommendation, but I didn't like submit it for all of my colleges. But so I think that's also like a risk you have to take if you like don't know for sure what the teacher is going to write about for you. So I think you should make sure you find a good teacher that you connect well with, and then you fully like immerse yourself into the class and also like what the teacher like wants you to do. For activities, I think it's like good to have a balance of things as well. I had many things related to my interests in the STEM area, but I also had activities that were a little bit different to show just like that I tried other things. Like one of them would be DECA, like which is a business competition type activity. And it's really different from what I want to focus on in college, but I think it shows that I have like many aspects. And another one would be like mock trial, which is also something completely different from what I want to pursue in college. So like generally, I think it's really important to just stay organized throughout this whole process and also get started early, but also make sure you like enjoy the things you're doing for sure, like your activities, and like make sure you start exploring your interests early on in the process.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. One thing I do also want to emphasize is definitely do things that you're really passionate about, or at least if you do things that like you have less passion for, definitely try to discover what you enjoy about it and really focus on what you enjoy about the activities you do. Because there are a lot of things in life that you'll do that you don't like, but you have to be able to see that side of it. For some of the questions in the chat, first of all, I do not have a counselor, but it could help. A good SAT score, I'd say, is about 1,500 or above, and then good ACT score is like 34 or above. I do recommend the ACT. I was able to get a 36.
It's so much better.
It is way better. I got a 36 fairly quickly from that. 3.9 GPA or higher, I'd say, is good. Good enough. I had 4.0, but it's not necessarily like worth it. Like I would say like I'd be fine to hit a couple of A minuses as well. Here and there, because definitely you don't need a 4.0. Robotics, as far as extracurriculars, so I did robotics for pretty much a big part of my life, and it's a big part of who I am as well. I joined 3rd grade, and I continued in like 6th grade, and then also throughout high school as well, where I moved up in captain positions and also software lead positions. But one thing that we really emphasize in robotics is the impact that we make in helping other people. Because robotics is really a great place for people to discover their passion for STEM and to really be introduced to the STEM community and how great it is that we can use our abilities to help change the world, essentially. And it might sound cliche, but it's true. The work that we do is really something that we have a passion for and something that we believe can help innovate what we do in the future. And so one thing I really wanted to do in software that I worked on is to create this collaborative environment where people can learn new things. And I became a software lead this year for a team, and I helped lead the coding process as well as the leadership and the team that's there for coding the robot. And here I really discovered like how I can change people's lives by just introducing them to these opportunities. And so another thing about robotics is that it's also where I saw a huge side of me for this sort of obsession is what I'd call it, an obsession for coding, because really robotics did become something that I would do during school, do during the bus, do like it's almost 24/7. It's like an unpaid full-time job, that's what I like to call it. But I really worked at it for long periods of time, and I really worked with other people, and I really enjoyed it because I would do this regardless of getting paid. I would have done this only because of enjoyment. And actually I did all this obsession stuff senior year. So I didn't even do any of this for college applications. I did it because I like doing it. And I really found meaning through it. And that's something that I believe that people should work towards, is to find a meaning that through the things they do, something that is like something that will have value to them. Other CS extracurricular I did was app development. in 8th grade, 9th grade, I had these coding phases in which I would spend long periods of time just grinding out code and just coding new apps. I code like about a dozen apps so far. But I also had some big name apps. In 8th grade, I released my first game. If you guys remember that, it was a whole lot of fun. So especially advertised to school, I get the whole school playing it. And then 9th grade, I had another one called Curry Catcher, the first version. And then recently I created Curry Catcher 2, which is free to play on iOS and Android. And yeah, that, but really, it's really to show when I created Curry Catcher 2, it's to show that I not only have more knowledge in coding, but that I have the ability to learn how to code and faster. So I figure out in high school, you guys will develop skills that allow you to learn faster and obtain knowledge faster, not only just give you knowledge, but also the knowledge of getting more knowledge, if that makes sense. But this year I did create something that I believe that would have taken me years before that I fit in a matter of 3 weeks, creating something that I had never done before, but because of these new abilities that we developed throughout high school that I could learn in 3 weeks and also release as well. There are less STEM-related activities that I did. I did mock trial. That was a big part of my high school life as well, because it takes up a lot of time throughout the year. This is one of the clubs that worked on my public speaking skills. So the ability to speak, things like that. I was a varsity attorney and I usually did the opening presentation and I was typically on prosecution. And I had a lot of fun doing this. And really, I kept on doing it senior year, not really for college apps, but mostly just because a lot of friends were there. I really loved the social aspect of it. And I really loved being able to go through them with this competition. So definitely, if you do have a passion, I definitely recommend pursuing it. Although that's not necessarily the best use of time, but it was something I did find to be very useful for me. I also did Boy Scouts. I did Boy Scouts ever since Cub Scouts as well in elementary school, and then Boy Scouts all throughout middle school and high school. I recently obtained Eagle Scout and also had served as a senior patrol leader, which is the highest rank there for a period of time. And that's another thing that's not STEM related, but I truly found adventure in doing, because we went on a lot of hikes, we went on a lot of challenges, and we faced a physical and mental environment in which challenged me truly. In Boy Scouts, we'd go on things like 50-mile hikes, we'd go through camp, and we learned a lot of new skills that I really believe helped shape who I am today. And as far as sports goes, I actually did varsity cross country and track as well. And definitely, if you guys do have your own sport, pursue it, because it is similar to people's passions. It is something that if you do enjoy, it's a great opportunity for you to be able to take a break from school as well. And for cross country, for me, it's something that I really like doing, that I ended up writing about for my personal statement. So my personal statement was actually how I discovered through cross country that we shouldn't value ourselves based on the results, but rather value ourselves based on the work that we put in. And so that I really addressed the fear that I had before, after doing cross country for pretty much ever since 6th grade, that there's a fear of losing the race that caused people to not want to even try, rather than to actually just do the race and try your best. And that you should place value on the work that you put in and trying as hard as you can, rather than what result you actually get. Because if you focus on results too much, you end up not being able to want to take risks, because I really believe that you should take risks in life as well. And that's what I mean by taking risks, is that there might be a fear of losing that you can overcome. I also, some more STEM related stuff. I did coding competitions and math competitions as well. I did math competitions ever since 4th grade. I continued it through high school. I did Amy. I unfortunately did not get to USAMO at all, but I did do pretty well. I did average on the Amy. I did also less focused math competitions like the HMT, which is the Harvard MIT math tournament, the CMIMC, which is the Carnegie Mellon math tournaments, and there's a bunch that are really fun. And I definitely had a blast doing them with my friends as well. So I do recommend doing those if you do have a passion for them, but it's not completely necessary, because you'll do just fine without Amy or things like that. Programming competitions, I did USACO as well as other items. This is something that I definitely do recommend that you get into. they are really fun to do. And I thought that I should have spent more time throughout high school. If I could go back, I would start programming competitions in 9th grade or even before that, because if you just work hard at it, you can get really far with programming competition. You can get really good. And it's the skill that you master that can actually take you pretty far in life, and it's really useful. And also, I do actually tutor fees as well. And so that's something else I got out of it, is that people do want to learn this, and it is a good opportunity for you to pursue. Software engineering. So I did also get an internship in 11th grade to work at Autodesk as a software engineer. And so last year and throughout school, I worked full-time as a software engineer for Autodesk. We worked on a robotics simulation program because Autodesk is known for creating these robotics-related activities and applications. And so I worked on just one of the branches of it. And that is something I truly enjoyed doing, and found that, like, yes, CS is a great career for me, and something I can see myself spending 40 hours a week doing. And so definitely, if you do have these internship opportunities, they are really good to apply for. In it, we do like full-blown pull requests, work on complex code bases, and also learn how to write like good code and good clean code. And so that's mainly the big bulk of my extracurriculars. But some things I do want to emphasize is to really be yourself on your applications. Like, something I really wish I could have done is express myself better. I don't think my college application process was the most smooth for me. And I think I could have really done things a little bit better if I could truly discover more sides of myself that I could express beyond just what I did in school. And so really, a lot of things that define me now actually happened senior year, because I saw a completely different side of things. I saw what I really enjoyed from the activities I did, instead of just doing them for college applications. And I really believe that if I could do college applications again this year, I'd have a completely different approach to it. And so really try to be the best version of yourself, but also don't be someone that you are not meant to be. Because if you're trying to be someone that like is completely different personality than you, you're not going to be able to express it as better if you just express who you truly are, and really go for it and take risks if you'd like. And also remember that colleges don't actually determine your future. It's really about like the stuff that you do for it. An example I like to use is one of my friends, family friend. They actually went to college for a medical degree. So they had a minor in CS, but majored in biology at WashU, which is not even known for CS. But they ended up working, like right out of college, they found a job at, I think it was GoPuff, which is like a startup company for delivery services. And they got that job for computer science, even though they did not have like a computer science major degree. And they later on are now about to be multimillionaires because the company is going to go public soon. And so these are one of the stories that show you that you actually don't need to be like, go to the top CS school, go to the top universities. You can still be really, really successful in the CS area, and really discover what you do like. And even if you don't have that passion yet for CS, or have a passion yet for something that you do want to do in the future, you can, it does not mean that it's like not still the best choice or the wrong choice for you. Because my sister, for example, she went into college without actually having the passion for CS, but she discovered later on that CS was right for her, and that was a good choice all along. So don't let what you have now be a determining factor for the future, because things can change. You will discover what you like. And so now she's working for Zipline as a software engineer, and she loves it really much, even though going to college, she didn't necessarily have the same passion for it. And so then, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, so I am very different from everyone here in that I don't want to do CS. After you said that, I joined the same robotics team as Lenci and Jacqueline in middle school. I did not like it. I took IBCS this year. I also did not like it. Even though I did perfectly fine in the class, like I just don't like CS at all. And like I already decided I didn't want to do CS like coming to high school, but then I was like, I'll give it another chance. It makes a lot of money, but it's not for me. And so, like knowing this going into high school, I did a lot of other stuff, like and I'm not gonna lie, I'm still trying to find like what I personally like to do. So I did Club Med throughout high school, and I won state my sophomore year. I did science club 9th and 10th and 11th grade. And then obviously like Lenci or like Jacqueline Ellen, I also do music. I play the bassoon. I'm in CISO. I did All Northwest. I competed at state. And like I said, these are just things that I like to do. I'm pretty sure like everyone's pretty much covered everything in terms of like the general stuff. Like I don't really have anything new to add on to activities. So I'm just gonna talk about like just the little inputs I have about some of the topics they covered. So first is college counselor. I'm gonna be more blunt than Lenci. Is like it's not helpful at all. In terms of like everything they told me, because I had a college counselor too, is everything they told me is stuff that if I just put an hour into research online, I could have found. And like Reddit is a very good tool for finding like what colleges are like what their socials like life is like, what they value, and you can just do research in terms of finding out about colleges, stuff that college, the ideas that college counselors provide. The reason why I got one is because I wanted help for writing essays, and that was actually very helpful. But like your peers, your students, they're also very good essay like writers and very good peer reviewers. And it's honestly a lot more comfortable having like someone that you're close to read something so personal about you rather than like some random person you met online and you're paying like a lot of money to support. And so I'll be honest, like you don't need a college counselor. Just do research on yourself. It's a lot more valuable and you'll save a lot of money. And then letter of rec. What's important about letter of rec is like is not whether or not you like the class or you did good in the class. It's your relationship with the teacher is what I found. And so the two people I asked for letter of rec, they both rounded my grade up. So I knew that they liked me a lot. And they both wrote me letters of rec. Also, like you're not supposed to see the letter of rec. That's the contract you're assigned, but that's besides the point. So just make sure like it's okay if you suck up to your teachers and you're kind of like one of those kids, you know, like, oh, like they're always talking to the teacher. Always like I asked my teacher a lot of questions. I would like keep on pestering him with questions. And then as a result, like he's like, oh, this student is very interested in my class and he's very dedicated. And as a result, they grew to like me. And so like don't be afraid to be annoying to your teacher. They want to talk to you, especially in high school. And then lastly, something that I don't know if you guys did, something we haven't talked about at all is interviews. Did you guys do interviews? Yeah, well, because I think my strongest part of my application was my interview. I remember after my interview, my interviewer said I was the strongest interviewer in like the Seattle area for Emory, and he put in like really like he emailed me after I got in and was like I expect you to get in just because of your interview. And so basically interviews work like you apply to colleges, and while they're still like deciding whether or not to accept you or not, they can, it's optional, you don't have to do it, but like it's like SAT, you know, it's optional, but it can only benefit your application, right, if you do good. And so I took the interview, and what's really important, and not just for interview but just for the entire application process, is you do a lot of research into the college that you want to apply to, like what classes they have, what professors they provide, what the city's like, stuff like that. And so when I went to the interview, he literally just asked like, why Emory? Why are you applying to Emory? And I prepped for like 6 to 8 hours before, like over the span of like 2 weeks, and I had like this big like 2-page thing of like a million questions and a response to each one. And so when he asked the question, I was fully prepared, and then I did really good. And then at the end, it was just like a conversation. And it's like two friends talking about one wanting to go somewhere and one who already knows about that place. And so interviews, if you get offered one, I would recommend taking it, because like I said, it can only benefit your application, and it's also fun, and you also can learn a lot about the college talking to someone who's actually been on there and not just looking at stuff online. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. I think you guys covered it. We have live audience, so do you guys have any questions? 你们有没有问题？
就是我提到一个问题，就是因为我女儿今年她是10年级，明年11年级，所以你们刚才讨论的 SAT 和 SAT 的问题，然后呢，所以就是 比如说你们觉得应该是，比如今年暑假重点考，是明年暑假来考更合适呢？
So this year. Do it as so that they asked whether or not like take the SAT in like 10th grade or 11th grade.
She's going to school.
Yeah, I'm telling them right now. So basically, one of our life points asked like her daughter or his daughter is going into 11th grade next year. So like, should they take the SAT now or should they take the SAT like next year before 12th grade? So like I said, I think it's better to take it early, like before 11th grade, because 11th grade is the hardest year. It's the most rigorous in terms of coursework, at least for me. So like 他没有会有那么多时间复习 SAT. But I took it like between 11th and 12th grade because like I wasn't prepared. And it's really hard, but like there is enough time. 你会有时间，可是就是会很难。就是现在早点 it's less. You can put more effort into it.
For me though, I do kind of regret the amount of time I did spend during the summer beforehand. So I do think that like you can start now. It's good to do so. It's good to start early, but don't overdo it. Essentially, like it's good to instead discover something, work on what you actually do like, because the SAT is not really a fun thing to do. But yeah, that's what I have recommending is that yes, you can start early, spend a lot of time on it, but also make sure that you still remain balanced with everything else that you do. Because I did it like near the end of junior year personally. Yes.
这个正好我刚才您好像提你两个都考是吧 ？SAT 和 SAT 都考。
没有 I just我 ACT 做了 practice test to see which one I like more, but I ended up choosing SAT, 因为我一直都是在做 SAT, 所以呢，我就觉得。
你这两个之间，你有什么评价吗？比如说你会建议。
Okay, so I did a lot like of debating. So between SAT versus ACT. So SAT 更 like 你做的时候你要想更多。There's more thinking involved. But ACT, but 他们会给你很多时间 so you have a lot of time. But ACT it's very fast. The questions are easier, but it's very, very fast. And so most people only have like they can only go through the test once. They don't even have time to double check the answers because of the speed. But I found ACT so much easier. Like when I was doing SAT, like the reading section, I would get like 10 wrong every time I did it. And then I was like, okay, I'll try the ACT. And my first ACT, I got 2 wrong on the reading section. I was like, oh, well, obviously I'm gonna do the ACT because I'm way better at this. And it comes down to personal preference. Like just try both, do a full test for each. Each one has its like what's hard and what's easy about it. But like me and Victor both much prefer ACT over SAT. Like,
can I add something to this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So ACT is not necessarily easier though. It's just a whole different skill set. Because ACT feels a lot more objective than the ACT. You can definitely be able to like if you do a lot of practice for the ACT, you can improve a lot faster. Because for me, it felt like SAT, even if you do a lot of practice, it's a lot harder to improve for it and you can score. While for ACT, you just do a ton of the readings, do a lot of them over and over again. The biggest issue with ACT though is that it's really easy to choke the ACT. And by choke, I mean like if you just have one brain lapse in which you like for 1 minute try to read the same paragraph, you pretty much lose a lot of points off of it. So there are a lot of risks with the ACT in the sense that the reading section and the science section can be hard sometimes and can get a really bad score. And if you don't do very well, like the main thing with ACT though, you do have to take it a few times if you feel like it, if you don't do well the first time, because there's a huge element of risk to the ACT where like you might get stuck somewhere, and if you do get stuck, you essentially cannot even finish the test or answer all the questions. You lose a lot of points there.
I actually, when I did practice tests for SAT and ACT, I did like similarly on both. So it was like a difficult decision for me. But in the end, I chose SAT mainly because of the PSAT test. And because they're like really similar, but the PSAT is a lot easier. I felt like if I studied for the SAT and just took the SAT, it would also be studying for the PSAT at the same time. So I thought that would be like a better use of my time personally, rather than studying for both the ACT and then also the PSAT. But I think if you score a lot better on the ACT, it's definitely worth going to and like switching to the ACT.
it's also a lot easier to get a perfect score in the ACT than SAT.
Yeah, 36 versus 1600 is very different. Like getting a 36 is so much easier than getting a 1600.
1600 might be worth a little bit more, but
it's not that big of a deal.
It's not that
like,
big
it's not a big deal. Like once you hit that certain threshold, colleges are just impressed.
Exactly.
Okay. 还有没有问题？
还有问题吗？
没有问题，我问一下。就是说now you talk about the COVID impact to your application. It seems like COVID never happened to your problem. Is anything special in your prepare your activity caused by COVID? You have to navigate some part time because of COVID.
So one of our live audience members asked how COVID impacted our applications, because we didn't really talk about it.
I could talk about the 30% increase in college applications here.
Yeah, our year is more competitive because a lot of people take gap years, right?
First of all, that, and also with all the lifting of like SAT, ACT requirements as well, and people just getting more interested, more invested in college applications. This year, we did have over a 30% increase in applicants, and everything has become far, far more competitive this year alone, specifically. And so this year has been a tough year for us. But definitely we are appreciative where we stand now. COVID was quite the experience.
I don't think COVID impacted college applications more than it impacted like school life, like how rigorous school is. I think 11th grade for us was a lot easier than people who had to, like, we're looking at 11th graders now, and they're like I went to the library after school and there was like 30 kids there all working on the projects together because like it was so bad, but online it wasn't as bad it was so bad. It wasn't.
It has some challenges.
Yeah. And then the transition back into real person school was very hard. It's like waking up, like you can't sleep through class anymore.
I honestly felt like I enjoyed in-person school so much better than online school. Because when you interact with people and when you can develop your own skills and passions, it's much easier to do it in person than over online. Like over online, it just felt like things have a lot less meaning and have a lot less value to me. And so I felt like a lot more motivated and more determined when I went back to in-person school.
Could you share a little bit more your experience about the college selection process or college selection strategy? You know, when you talk about EA, ED, RD, how you decide which college you are going to go EA, which college are you going to do ED or RD? I mean, RD is EA or ED.
Okay, so one person asked like our college selection process and ED, EA, RD. So early decision, early action, and regular decision. Okay, I can go. Basically, first there's early decision, which is binding. So if you get into a college early decision, you apply to the college early, and you get in, you have to go to the college. You sign a contract. You say, I'm going to this college. And then EA is early action. And if you get into it's applying to college early, but it's not binding. And the reason why people would ED to a school is it increases your chances a lot because you're saying, like, it multiplies it by like honestly like 10 times. Depends on the school, right? But it will increase it a lot. And you're saying like, this is like most people is like, this is my dream college. And like, if I get in, I'm going here over any college. And then RD is regular decision, which is just applying regular. The applications are usually doing like February, something like that. But EA, January, February, EA, ED, you'll apply like November. Like November 1st is when it's due, and then you get your results mid-December. So for ED. So me and Jacqueline, we both applied ED. So I applied Emory early decision, and she applied Cornell early decision. And one quick benefit about early decision is I applied to 3 schools. How many schools did you apply to? 11? Oh, what? Oh, okay. I basically thought, okay, if I'm gonna get into my ED school, like if I don't get into my ED school, I'll just do a bunch of regular decisions. So I only applied to 3 colleges. And then, I mean, do you want to talk about ED? Yeah, but ED, like if you ED to a school, make sure that you want to go there because it's binding. And like if you don't go there, if you end up deciding, I don't want to go to my early decision school because I got into a different school later, they like they like communicate with each other, and then you get like blacklisted, and you can't go to either. You just removed from either school. So it's really bad. So make sure like if you get into that college, like you're gonna go there for ED. That's all.
Yeah, and also like usually the notification or like the deadline that you have to like confirm that you're actually going to go to your ED school is like I think mid to late January. So usually by then most colleges aren't even out yet. Like you might have some EAs, but I feel like those are like mostly like your safeties, your targets. You don't really have any of like the higher level schools. So unless you have like a financial difficulty after applying to financial aid, and let's say the college doesn't give you like enough aid for you to be able to afford that education, then yeah, you might be able to like get out of the contract. But for most people, that isn't the case. So you like basically just have to commit.
So yeah, there are a couple of problems with ED as well. So some schools, ED is like not necessarily much of a benefit. For example, for Cornell, it doesn't really increase your acceptance rate that much. Me and Lenci applied ED to CMU. I did ED CMU because I really loved it. My sister goes there, and I visited the campus, and I got really passionate about it. I did their coding competitions as well. Let's see, why do you apply? Because it's really good.
Because it's a good school.
Exactly, yeah. But also, many schools aren't actually ED. For example, MIT, Stanford, and a bunch of other these top schools use REA instead. And what REA does is that you can only apply to one REA school, which I only applied for REA to Stanford, I believe, yeah. So ED is not necessarily the best decision. You can also REA to places, and you can only choose one out of like, I think the Ivy Leagues are also REA, but those are not necessarily binding. Those you can actually still apply to other colleges and go there. The only restriction is that you can apply to one REA college.
Every school is different.
And you can't apply to any like private universities for early action either if you do REA.
Yeah, every school is different. They offer different things. Like not every school offers early decision. Not every school offers REA, stuff like that. You have to do research.
I do recommend doing a lot of EA schools as well, just because you want to spread out the college application process. You don't want to EDs or not ED. You don't want to RE to everything. Yeah.
How about the list? Share about the list. So you
list.
Yeah, the list first, then make decision EA or ED, right?
I looked at, because I'm not doing computer science, so I looked at like a lot of schools, so my list is very different from everyone else's in that I had Northwestern, I think, as my top choice. But then, okay, I was like, yeah, I want to, like, what's my best chance? Like, I wanted to ED somewhere, and I wanted to like my best shot. I was like, Northwestern is, I don't know if I can ED into Northwestern. So I chose Emory, and they have like similar strengths. And honestly, it's just like you look at what majors different schools have and how good those majors are. And you can create like a list. And then for ED, when you decide on ED, it's just your top choice. So like if you get in, you're going here. Wait, you should talk about lists because you had a.
Also, like this is connecting back to like the COVID idea. There's been a lot like of increase to applicants. So my list, along with Victor's, were humongous. Like a few years ago, I remember people saying like 15 is a good number, but this year, both of us had over 20 colleges on our list. And I chose these colleges mainly based on like the CS program. So I did a lot of research beforehand on their like programs, and then I wrote out like their deadlines. And I tried to do as many early actions as I could because it also like increases your chances by a little bit, I would say, in comparison to regular decisions. So if they do offer it, I would suggest trying to apply EA unless you feel like your application isn't ready by then. Also, in terms of like your college list, I think you need to have like a really good balanced college list. So not only do you need your reach schools, but you also do need safety schools. So I had a few safeties on there and then some target schools along with a lot of reach schools. And I think this is just like personally, it just depends on what types of colleges you want to go towards. I know some people, they have like a much different build of colleges than I did. Like some people focus more on like their reach schools and they have a lot more of them and they like apply to all the IB schools, for example. right? But it all depends on like personally what you feel like is best for you. But I do definitely suggest having 1 or 2 safety schools for sure, and a couple of target schools as well.
For me, I also had long college lists. I think we also had that document where we have like the college, like what's good about it, and also when the date is, and we like schedule out deadlines so when to turn things in. As far as the list goes, I had about 6 really hard to get into top schools at the top of the list. Then underneath it, I had the next 6, which made the top 12 schools. These top 12, like if I make any of these, I'd be very happy about it. And then below that are mostly just targets, and then also some safeties as well. So that's about the composition of the 23 schools I applied to. But yeah, I think don't necessarily fill up everything with like dream schools. Like dream schools, you don't necessarily need to apply to all of them. Definitely look into them before you apply them, because I'd not apply to a lot of the top colleges. I'd not apply to Cornell, Columbia, etc. in those schools. And I think I'm fine with that. I don't know what else.
And also, like along with like the whole idea of safeties, reaches, and targets, it's kind of hard to like figure out where to like place some of the schools, like if they're considered a target for you or not, because it also depends on like the major you choose, and like the school specific major acceptance rate, and also if you're in state or out of state for public universities, there's a difference. Some of these numbers aren't like as easily accessible online, so it's like difficult to find out like where you should place them on their list. But I feel like if you just definitely include a few safeties just in case, and then targets, like most people recommend having like the majority of your list be targets and just having a few reaches. But I think that can be changed based on like the types of schools you want to get into.
Yeah,
someone asked about visiting colleges.
Oh, I can talk about it as well. And for me, I visited a bunch of colleges because I ended up having a split decision for me. For me, it was Michigan, Georgia Tech, and UT Austin for computer science. And so I ended up visiting Georgia Tech. And honestly, it makes a huge difference if you do visit the college that you apply. Oh, wait, I said, want to apply to. No, I'm not visiting the college I want to apply to. Only after I got it.
Only you though.
Also, because like we were in like a different type of year because of COVID, we didn't really have as many chances to go visit colleges. But I think it's definitely worth it to do.
If you can, you should.
Yeah, you should. And also there's things online like the info sessions, and then there's also college fairs that happen. I went to some like of those instead, and they helped me like narrow down my list a little bit more before applying. Because even like you don't want your list to be filled with like the schools you wouldn't go to even if you're accepted into.
I did visit CMU, but I do have to caution that visiting schools that you apply to will make it hurt more if you don't get into the school. So I do actually would not recommend too fully about doing it. Most colleges don't look at interest. Like if you show more interest in the school, they won't necessarily like favor you in the admissions process because they want to keep it fair. So it's not necessarily beneficial to visit schools that you apply to, but definitely do visit them after you get into them.
So, yeah. Any other questions?
所以说，是学校重要还是 major 重要？是谁去 make?
Okay, what's more important, major or school? It's major. Major is more important.
Okay, I'll say something about this. If you're caring about a school, like if you just want to get into a school
for the name,
for the name, I would say don't do it. Like even like if you let's just say you want to get into Stanford or okay. Yale. Okay. Or okay, we'll just go with college A. Any college. Let's say you want to study I don't know, computer science. But then you pick some like really easy major to get into, like
underwater basket weaving.
Yeah, that. And then you end up getting there, but sometimes like the process to like switch majors isn't that easy, and it like won't be worth it for you in the end. So like don't try to like change your major based on like which college you want to apply to. Like obviously there might be some exceptions, like if the majors are similar, like for UW, you can apply to CS or CE, computer engineering like direct, and those are like pretty similar. But if you want to go from like CS to like biology, that's like kind of like far, and like you don't really want to do that to yourself if you're really interested in CS. So definitely apply for the major, the program that you want to get into, and not for the school.
Structure your school list after how strong your majors are.
Yeah.
Like UW, okay, UW is a very good school, but in terms of like prestige, it's not comparable to like Harvard or like Ivy Leagues, right? But the thing is, UW has like one of the best CS programs like in the world, right? Good job. and so like getting into UW CS is like, it's very, yeah, and like I think it's best case scenario. But so like I don't even know what I'm saying. but UW CS is like over me, like I would take UW CS over like anything, like Harvard, Princeton, Yale, because
like don't go for the name,
because
like,
the major,
honestly,
it's the
name
major.
is not necessarily what you want to do. Like it doesn't really matter that much. Like I did read a lot of Reddit posts when deciding which college to go to, and they do say like there are people who end up going to Harvard, going to all these really expensive top colleges, and then they're also comparing to people who just went to like a local state school or something. And then the people who go to local state school end up in a much better place because they have a major they're passionate about, and they don't have a lot of debt because of college as well. And so definitely name does not really have that big of a factor. Just go for major. Yes.
And like honestly, like if when you're interviewing for jobs and stuff, I'm pretty sure like only the first job like that you interview for after college like looks at your education or like where you go, and then after that it doesn't matter because like it's all based on experience. So honestly, like if you're passionate in whatever you're doing and you're going to like a not that great school, it's still okay because the outcome might be the same as someone who went to like a really good school.
Yeah. So I actually at my job for Autodesk, there are people there who are like really, really good at coding. Like they're insane, miles better than I am. And they go to like local community colleges and like not really well-known schools that are just like really cheap and really good for them, but they are really bright and have really good futures in computer science. Like the school that you go to does not necessarily mean that you're good or bad anyway. It does not define you at all. It's really about what you put into it, which determines how good you are in your future.
如果大家都没问题，我最后问一个问题啊，你们觉得在你们考大学的这个过程当中，父母的参与很重要吗？就是说你们在申请学校申请成功了以后，你们觉得是父母的作用更大，还是你们自己的作用？
Okay, so we got a question about parents.
Oh, okay. For me, my parents don't actually like do much for me at all. I really am on my own for most of the stuff. I do ask my sister a lot of questions, and she does help. But the extent, like she reads some of my essays and stuff like that. But really, the extent to which my parents do is that they help pay the application fee, and they do make sure that they read through my application one more time to make sure there's not any mistakes or anything. And other than that, I mostly was independent on my own, especially through what I did in high school as well.
I have very different experience. Like me and my dad, honestly, I don't think I would have gotten into college without my dad. He was he was the reason why I still got an interview. Like he pushed me to think outside of the boundaries, stuff like that. But one thing I'll say about parents' influence not in college, but just like your high school life, is a lot of parents are their way of thinking is very different from ours, and stuff they think is not okay is actually totally fine and acceptable. And you don't have to listen to your parents. but I always listen to my dad because I feel like he's always right. But like it's okay to question things.
So I do have one more question. How about your school counselor? I know for public school probably. I just wonder if the admission officer will contact school counselor at all or not.
School counselor. Oh, so we got to school counselors. Every school has counselor letter of rec too, right? So your counselor will send a letter of rec to the school as long as your transcript from first semester and the years before.
So do they know you? I mean, I guess you guys are very outstanding in school. They may know you, but for most students, there are so many seniors in the public school. How do you think the reputation?
They don't. For me, it was I arranged a meeting with them. I talked to them one-on-one, and I think for the meeting that we had, the one interaction we really connected because she was the counselor for me was actually the mother of a person I ran cross country with. So like we already could talk a lot about it, and so she really liked me after that, and so I think she wrote a good recommendation.
You have to arrange a meeting with them to ask for the council letter of rec like anyway. So you're going to talk to them. But I only talked to my counselor at that meeting, and I think I got a fine council letter of rec. You don't have to like it's different for teachers, right? Like teachers, like I'm gonna be honest, you should actively try to suck up to them and build a good connection. But counselor, it's not as important. I think they can provide more insight about like the classes you take, the rigor, stuff like that to the school.
I think the weakness I had was I didn't really do all the teacher recommendations.
And also the counselor recommendations is like you have to fill out like a form for your counselor, and like even though if your counselor doesn't know you personally that well, if you fill out that form like very detailed and you spend a lot of time into it, you're basically guaranteed like a decent like letter of recommendation. And that's like also the same with teacher recommendations. They will also probably have something for you to fill out. So just make sure you spend enough time on that, and you will probably get a good letter of recommendation.
So what is the timeline for that to do that?
Oh, get your letter of rec. Ask like junior year, like second semester junior year, before you go to school, because
for teachers.
Oh, for teachers? That's for teachers.
Counselors is in the fall.
Counselors you can ask in senior year fall, because like that's their job. They're supposed to be.
I don't know. I thought it's like they first can't really do anything like junior year. You can only ask like September.
Yeah, you can. No, teacher recommendations. What I did was I did a pre-ask junior year during the summer to like just guarantee that this teacher will write one for me. And then I asked like formally again at like beginning of the year.
And then counselor, you can just do fall senior, because like every year, okay, counselors have to deal with like writing a letter of rec for all the students that they take care of. So like it's okay. But teachers, the spots fill up really quickly, especially if they're popular.
I personally don't think it was necessary at all 11th grades.
Really?
Yeah.
Like Shin fills out before they show.
Or people I asked, they're just like, yeah, just come back September.
Both of my teachers had to put me down before, and I asked them like May.
Like my teachers gave me like the form they wanted me to fill out like in the summer beforehand. So like so I had time to fill it out during the summer.
Okay, it's better to ask early. There's no harm in asking early. Okay, there's no harm in asking early. No, it's not. It took 2 minutes. Okay,
and also like do I say this? Counselor, like honestly, like the counselor recommendation, like you have to do it for like every college. So like counselors, like we have like 5 at Skyline, and they have to go through like 100 seniors like letters. So like they don't have that much time to write it either. So you in that like form for both teachers and counselors, I guess you have to make sure you point out like the main things that you want them to talk about you, and like make sure that is included, because that's ultimately how you like put yourself in the best light and make sure that you can get that good recommendation.
Any other questions? In person or online? Just type it out in the chat if you have. Oh, we're done? Okay. Any final words? Any final words? Anyone has any final words? Yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, like talking to people in like my grade and looking at the older classes, like everyone turned out fine. Like everyone ended up where like everyone was happy at the very, okay, this is so awkward. Everyone was happy where they wanted to be at. Like even if you don't get into your #1 choice, like most people, like everyone's fine. You'll be fine. Just put in hard work pays off. How would you advise? Oh, they give you a form to fill out, and you talk about yourself. They ask you a bunch of questions, and you fill out the form. At least this is for our school, and then you send the form to them, and they so they like know about you.
Just make sure you stay organized.
Teachers also do that. You'll be okay.
Oh,
yeah,
definitely. Everyone goes through this, and we turn out just fine. We get into a college, and so I'm confident to tell you that you guys will do good as well.
Better than us.
And if you have any questions, you definitely will figure it out along the way. And like we all on both sides will work through it, even if it's new for us. So I'm sure you guys will do this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
谢谢。你们线下的还想跟他聊聊，再聊聊，还没走。